It's time to prove that jinxes aren't real. This is the Arsenal Vision pre-match live stream. My name is Elliot Smith, and you can block me on Twitter at Yankee Gunner. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first live stream of the season. And I'd venture to say a live stream that is going to prove that jinxes aren't real. All right. I want to be clear. We did quite a lot of live streams last season, and we won a lot of games after we did live streams, but for whatever reason, we lost a few games after live streams. And that's not our fault. Okay, maybe it's our fault, but people seem to think that it was related to us. I want to be clear. It is not, was not, never was related to us. And we are here to prove that today because Arsenal make the trip to Bournemouth. We didn't get the result we wanted in the early game today, but what we did see is that in general, that lot are crap. They are going to continue to be crap, and they're going to continue to hoof it to their forwards, who occasionally will rescue them anyway. So here's the layout for today. We're going to do a quick hour. We're going to talk lineup. We're going to talk tactics. We're going to talk lineup some more, maybe talk a little bench, maybe talk some lineup, talk about tactics, sort of bounce back and forth between those things. Maybe talk about how the day is going, how your weekend's going. I made Mickey and Minnie pancakes for my 6-year-old who turned 7 today. So that was fun. Anyway, let's introduce Jess. We'll get Paul on the pod in a minute as well. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to take your comments, take your questions, throw them up on the screen. Feel free to make fun of us, say nasty things about us. We'll definitely put that on the screen. Here with me now at Justine Tweets is Jessica. Hello, Jess.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. Our first time seeing each other in quite a while. You got your new setup. It looks super professional. Do you want to just explain to everyone that you've gone sort of... So once upon a time, I was like, oh, I'll invite Jess and she'll appreciate it. Now I have to go through 2 of your agents, 1 of your handlers. They relay the message. We go back and forth. And after about 7 or 8 days of negotiation, I can get through to you. You have risen, you have supernovaed. And if you'd like to explain to people what on earth I'm talking about, I'm sure everybody would love to hear about it.
Well, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about because I'm not that serious. But yeah, doing some stuff out here in the UK, spending some time out here. So yeah, this is my setup was supposed to be so much better, I swear. But right as soon as I was about to get started, the internet dropped and the webcam wasn't working. I was like, this is so not cute. So this is not actually it. But yeah, I'm out here just, living the dream. And yeah, hopefully Arsenal will not struggle as much as I did to get onto this live stream.
I think you are only on the rise to what will be your inevitable supremacy. And I, for one, am here for it and glad to see it and excited to see you and talk about what should be a fun day of football. But unfortunately, we do have some bad news. Joining us now, you can find him on Twitter at Paz in My Pants. Hello, Paz.
Woohoo!
How are you, buddy?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, good.
Hi,
good
Jess.
to see you.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I washed my hair.
Look, I didn't, so you got one up on me. Hey, Jess, if I could ask, I don't know if you have control of the audio or if your 7 sound guys and your special setup in your new superstar situation allows that. But if you could pop your sound up just a little bit, I think that would help us out just a little bit. We do have lineups, so we're gonna get to that. And I think just some real quick exciting news: Fabio Vieira makes the bench. Paul, you excited to see maybe get a chance to see Fabio Vieira today?
No. I watched his under-21s performance. He's not ready yet. I couldn't actually tell him from the other under-21s at that point. Physically, athletically. He had 1, maybe 2 nice moments. So I think he's still settling in. I think so. It's nice. It's nice for him. He's on the bench. It's nice for him. He's settling in. But I guess I would take it that he's going to need a week or 2 or 3 to be up to, when he comes on, we want him to sparkle. We want him to have a great experience. We want us to have a great experience with him. And I don't think he's there quite yet. So I'm not super excited about. I'm excited for him. I'm more excited to see how the player is right at this moment.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Jess, do you want to bring some joy and lightness to the podcast after Paul has just decided to take
100%.
Post-morning coffee poop all over the live stream? Anything for that?
Yeah,
maybe.
When I watched him play for the under-21s, I thought I saw a player that was ready, probably not, linked up with his teammates as well as a player that's been playing with Arsenal for a long time would be. But I saw a player that, if we're up a couple of goals and, we have maybe 15, 20 minutes left, you might want to see him play. I don't know what Paul's talking about. I'm ready. Drop him right in there. I mean, we want to see what we bought, So yeah, I would like to see him. I think Maybe Fulham, it actually might be a more difficult game to see him, to be honest. So maybe this one is the one if we could get up a couple goals.
I think, look, it goes without saying that you take every game super seriously in the Premier League and don't overstate your chances. I think ideally you'd want to be in a position, obviously, where we can maybe get a look at a few players. The thing that's interesting, Paul, like, we have a bona fide competition now for bench places. And this is something that I heard Andrew and Lewis talking about on the Artscast. Is just, it's funny, right? We're all like, we need to sign another forward. We need to sign another midfielder, right? And like, I'm not saying, by the way, that we don't need to do that. But let's say Pepe wasn't leaving. I think he is leaving, but let's say he wasn't. There's no room for him today. And you look at this team and you say, okay, I guess if he comes in, then like Lakanga could miss out, like Sambi, or maybe you leave Rob Holding out. But we're sort of at the point that if we sign 2 more players, you're going to be in situations where a Fabio Vieira is not making the match day team, or a Rob Holding isn't, which, not the end of the world, Mohamed El Neni. And I'm not saying those are players that absolutely have to be in the team, but it is really interesting to see now that when you bring in that top end talent, suddenly the bench looks a lot stronger. And suddenly those players who sort of expected to be in the match day squad, they're not there anymore.
Yeah, and I guess that's what happens when you get your players in early in preseason. They're all settled in, they're all fit, they're all ready to go. And there is that lovely moment for 2-3 weeks where you have more players than you think you can use. But the season kind of takes care of that for you pretty quickly. But like, while I agree with your points, we obviously still need cover for Saka because we know Pepe is not the answer and is highly probably going out on loan. Would be right for him, right for us. And then you got the issue of who is the Saka cover. It was interesting that Arteta asked for the under-21s to play Vieira off the right, just for kicks, and they played Smith Rowe in the right 8. I think to give Vieira somebody meaningful to build relationships with, even if that's not exactly how we set up when Vieira eventually plays for us. Well, obviously more likely to be Odegaard in that spot 19 times out of 20. But yeah, we don't really, like, in games, we take Saka off lately and we switch Martinelli to the right-hand side, which is not a go-forward plan. So we need options to cover there. But yeah, the bench looks good. I don't know our bench, there's competition for bench places, but not everybody's truly match fit yet, right? There's a couple of players who haven't really put in minutes. Marquinhos, the talk around him is very interesting. Obviously, it's very probably too early for him, but Arteta talked him up that he's ready to be part of the squad, at least for the next few months. He's solid, built like a truck. Needs to learn a bit of English, apparently, but is settling in nicely within the squad as a personality. But again, we still don't really have an option for taking Saka off on 70 minutes with our 5 subs, which we haven't really used so far. We haven't really used any of our subs till late in the game for the most part, and we're averaging low minutes per sub compared to other clubs. So we haven't really got into the subbing business yet, which will add a whole new dynamism to that.
Yeah. I mean, subbing is going to be interesting. I mean, they're letting us make more subs. I feel like we should go ahead and make those subs. But real quick before I bounce back to you, Jess, I do just want to say it is that time of year again when the FCAs come around, the Football Content Awards. I messaged Andrew. There's a bigger one, and then there's this one, and Andrew is always either the winner or near winner, the bigger one, and he lets the table scraps fall to us. So I said, Andrew, you can go for this one today. He said, it's all you, man. So I have the approval for you to vote for us if you would like to. All you have to do is copy the text on the screen and tweet it out. Or if you go to the FCA's Twitter account or their website, there's voting links there. And I should mention that you could also vote for Jess in the content creator. Is it best new content creator? Is that what it is?
Yeah, best new content creator. Yeah.
Will you still talk to us, Jess, when you're like famous?
She's already basically famous. But,
yeah, well, she's famous now.
Look at her setup. She used to be on a home desk.
Look, I got a thing on an arm now. Look at this.
I love that.
I don't know.
Of course, I'll talk to you guys. This is like still my favorite podcast to come on.
Yeah,
I still listen to your guys.
She remembers her roots. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
Well, vote for Jess. That's the point. Vote for us, most importantly. And then if you have time, vote for Jess. But definitely vote for us. And you can do it just by copying this and tweeting it or going to the link. Enough of that nonsense. Jess, real quick on the bench again. No Pepe in the squad. I imagine he will move on. And it's interesting, right? Because on the one hand, you could be like, if we get signings, then like first team players are going to not even make the match day squad. That's terrible. But like, that's just how it works. It is a cutthroat business and you can't be sympathetic. And the truth is the bench looks pretty heavy on the defenders today. So I definitely think that Mikel Arteta, given the option, would prefer to have attackers. I should mention that Marquinhos played, I think, 90 minutes today against the Chelsea U21s. No report yet on how he did, but that indicates to me that maybe not quite in the first team thoughts. Maybe we'll see when Europa League comes around. So how do you feel about the makeup of the bench as it stands now, and maybe the domino effect, the downstream effects of signing another, attacker or two?
Yeah, so like I'm a big advocate for competition for places, and I think it's just better for every squad. Like any good squad has a lot of competition for places, and I do think you're right, Elliot, that it's defender heavy because that's where we've always had more numbers. And then as you move up the pitch, up through midfield into attack, it becomes a little bit more obvious who you're going to choose. And so, but like even from the first game, like going from just having Eddie as like pretty much the only option. And then the next game, we had a couple more players. We had Tomiyasu and Tierney. Now we have Emile Smith-Rowe and Vieira. We're really growing that bench a lot more. And players have to know that they need to work to maintain their spots. And I do think over the last couple of years, that's something that Arsenal have really gotten away from. You've always known the starting 11, no matter what. Nobody was fighting for their positions. And so, yeah, we need a competitive environment. And I think that's what Arteta wants as well. And so I'm all for it. For me, I have favorites. Everybody has favorites, but really it's about getting the win at the end of the day. So whoever's best at doing that, that's who I want out on the pitch. And, hopefully guys on the bench are ready to come on because 5 subs are a big deal. Finishing games strong, being able to bring in different types of players. And we're seeing that with Zinchenko and Tierney. It's the best possible example of being able to do different things, different characteristics in the same position. So if we can do that in the forward line maybe, and also in a midfield position too, I think we're really going to be in a strong position this season.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's right. And look, big thanks to Sloggy Bear. Sloggy Bear, thank you for your vote. I don't know if it was for me, for us, or for Jess, or for both. As long as it was for us, thank you. If it was for Jess, totally not acceptable. So kidding, of course. All votes are good votes. Keys to victory tonight. And then we'll back up because like, the Premier League is an interesting place right now. I do want to talk a little bit of Spurs, but we should. Paul, the keys to victory tonight for me, I think it's just really straightforward, right? More of the same. Don't have your head in the clouds based on how you performed through 2 games. I don't think Arteta will let that happen. If there's one thing we know from watching All or Nothing, the intensity level in the dressing room at least will be right. I think the one thing, if I wanted to prod at from our first 2 games is, as we work on pressing and counter pressing, we have found ourselves a little vulnerable to the long straight balls. And I just think that's going to be a theme this season. It happens to the pressiest teams, and you just have to live with that. Your keeper needs to be a sweeper. We saw Ramsdale get that mostly right last week with one little dicey moment. So is that the one thing? Just making sure the counter press is tight and having the recovery for when those long straight balls come over the top and maybe dealing with that a little bit better.
Yeah, I think the counter press being switched on, like we had the experience again. Yeah,
mini guitars. Sorry, yeah, keep going.
Weird bastard. So well, you need little guitars because you've only got those little arms.
Little arms. I'm like a T-Rex. I play a little guitar.
You are a little. Yeah. Where was
just
I?
because you're 6'7" doesn't mean I'm like that's
I'm a grown boy.
To a hammer, everything is a nail. Anyway, go on, please.
Yeah. So I think the big adjustment, it ain't our defensive line. I thought you and I got into it big time over the fact that I thought Zinchenko was more physical, more switched on defensively in our second game than the first game, though that's always going to be a spot that they target for obvious reasons. He's not an actual fullback. He just plays one on TV. So that's a vulnerable spot for us. But Gabriel cheats across that side. I just think defensively isn't our issue, certainly not at the moment with the personnel we have. It's all about closing down the passer from deep, launching the ball. So when they launch it into the channels, it's under pressure, and that thing comes to us far more than it comes to them. And so, yeah, that's we're getting sharper and sharper up front. People are trusting the pressing process, which means you got the front line, you got the backup line, they all go at the same time. And so, oh, by the way, it's the Chicago Air and Water Show this weekend, so you'll hear fighter jets flying overhead in salute to Stuff and Arsenal.
It's a good, it's sort of an analogy to the fighter jets of our front line that will be attacking Bournemouth all day long. The lineup, by the way, I mean, we haven't really referenced it. We talk more about the bench, but it's an unchanged lineup. And Jess, like, this is the thing that I think is so important about preseason that maybe doesn't get stated enough. When you have a good, solid, consistent preseason and you roll into the season with that lineup ready to go, that gives you a big edge. Now, is it the exact lineup we would have wanted? You know, Tierney unavailable, Tomiyasu unavailable to start the season? We'll find out. But we roll into the season with a lineup that's had time to play convincingly in preseason. They get off to a great start during the season, and here we are. So do you think that this consistency and the way we've started is just linked to the fact that we were able to be a lot more prepared in the preseason than, for example, last season, obviously?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. I think it's just a continuation and a growth from last season. I do think we started building some of these relationships already. I mean, beyond Zinchenko and Saliba and Jesus, a lot of these players have kind of already played together. That midfield three is unchanged. So we're kind of seeing just a more refined and more robust version of what we were last season. And being able to play in preseason, get those new guys like acclimated to the group, and then roll into, I would say, a very favorable group of fixtures at the beginning of the season, I do think has all kind of contributed to us looking quite good. And I prefer this. You know, I know some people would prefer to get some of the harder games out of the way, but I think you want to build up that confidence. That for me, that's what I'd prefer to do. Because then by the time we get there, we'll have more options. People will be more fit and we'll be ready to go. So I think it's a couple of different things, but I think honestly, we've been building this since probably about November. It's been, you know, just shy of like maybe 2 months, shy of a year, where this is kind of what we've been seeing, and we're just building upon it more and more. So this preseason has helped, but I just think I'm seeing the team from last season with some different pieces in it, and in particular, a better Martinelli and a Gabriel Jesus who's absolutely on fire.
Yeah. I mean, I am in particular, Paul, as you might imagine, enjoying the start to the season Martinelli has had. And like, there's no question that Jesus has had an impact on that. Yeah. I mean, okay, I stand the Martinelli. I mean, that is a good thing and a right thing and a thing that you should do. But like, Zinchenko and Jesus have definitely played a role in that. I think it is interesting, Paul, like seeing how we develop with Tierney fully back. And if this will be a situation where games where we expect to have to defend on the left-hand side more, Tierney does get starts, or if Zinchenko's just the guy. I mean, he was one of our passiest players in our last game. He's fully changed the dynamic of the left-hand side. Shaq is now getting to the penalty spot and tapping in goals. But Gabriel Martinelli, he just seems primed to finally deliver on maybe what was held back by that knee injury. So how are you feeling about Martinelli's start? Because he just looks like someone physically, not just his talent level, but his physicality looks ready to really, I think, go up to the level that we might have thought he could have maybe a season earlier.
Yeah, there's been a noticeable upgrade in Martinelli and what he brings on the pitch. Attacking wise, holding onto the ball in tight spots, he's not quite in the they can't get it off him, but they might get it off him, but he's going to take it right back from them about 3 seconds later when they've kind of lost their shape and transition to attacking. It's probably best that he does this thing of loan them the ball, then nick it from them, turn them around. His taking it into midfield, swinging it to the other side, his dropping in, picking up the ball and starting to counter. He's always had that big defensive workload. Saw some journalist reporting on how maybe Martinelli has learned from Gabriel Jesus to do that extra work and that pressing. But like we always knew, this was Martinelli. But together, yes, they may push each other onto levels of new and deeper pressing, aggressive, coordinated. Martin Odegaard's right in that zone as well for pressing. Zinchenko, that's his game, right? Defensively, that's what he does. He pushes up and presses. So that all sets up beautifully for Martinelli, especially when he's going to take care of the ball this well. Like, why would you not get the ball into his area and attack from there? And like, he'll go straight at the box. Jesus will go straight at the box. When you see Jesus's heat map, it leans to the left to Martinelli's side. So they're making the combos. And Martinelli warrants all of that. He does stuff with the ball. He takes care of the ball. He's the guy when we needed to break through with Crystal Palace and were giving us a pretty even game. Martinelli took Fofana apart, devalued him from 85 million to 40 million in the space of about 15 minutes.
Yep.
And he was fantastic. And he lifts everybody on the team. It's not just Jesus who's lifting everybody on the team.
Yeah, I want to there's some scary stuff happening in the chat as usual. If I throw up a peace sign though, so this is a question, isn't that also considered flicking V's in some part? Like, how do you do a peace sign? That's not, all right, so this is okay, but
yeah,
this
that's
is not
okay. Winston
so
Churchill back in the day, that was V for victory. It was never peace, right? That was V for victory. But generally in England, that's like, hang on. And you know the logic, right? The theory is you used to need two fingers to pull a bow if you're in the army back in the day, quite far back in the day. So if we chop off one of your fingers, then you only have one. I don't know. There was something about two fingers and you're down to one.
Where's the mute button here? Jess, let's do a quick whip around the Premier League today. We've got results coming in. Actually, like, I think let's start with the Spurs result. Like, so fine. They win at home. I think we would have been expecting them to win that game. Wolves are a tricky side because I think they can make it hard for you to score. But like, the one thing we see from Spurs is it's going to just be more of the same from last season. Kick it long, don't create a lot of chances. Hope that they can get their nose in front with Kane or Son doing something to bail them out, right? And then once their nose is in front, they can play on the counter, which is where they want to be. I don't see a team that has a style that's good for picking up a lot of points because some days the margins aren't going to go for you. But for right now, all I see is a Spurs team that looks like they want to be exactly what they were last season.
Yeah, and what they were last season, weirdly, nobody could stop. Like, all they really need is one or two chances. I mean, I think they're the best example of a team where your attackers can really paper over a multitude of cracks and get you over the line. And I don't actually think they're trying to play good football at all. I think the game plan is, we don't care what the football looks like. Just get it to Son and Kane. That's always been what it is. And then Conte has kind of just made sure he has enough players that, he can still play his system. So it's going to be more the same. And that's, when I did my predictions, I kept saying that they're going to be frustratingly good this season because they're not going to play good football. It's like everybody else is required to play good football except for Spurs, and it's just okay for them to nick it all the time. So, yeah, it's one of those where it was frustrating, but when you look at Wolves and what they were last season, they're pretty much the same. They've brought in players, but they still can't score goals. Nice on the ball, but a 1-0 scoreline was always kind of there. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen when Spurs play teams like Crystal Palace, when they play teams like Fulham, these teams that aren't really supposed to be beating them, but have goals in their side. I don't think that's going to really be what they're all about, but like, let's just see what happens. I think they're going to lose some games, but I still think that they're going to be a pretty strong side, which is really frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I think they will be the typical tough side to beat that wants to just play ugly football that relies on where their talent is, which is up front. They don't want to play through midfield. They don't have the ability to play through midfield. And so, you're going to control games against Spurs, but occasionally you're just going to lose to them because Son or Kane bails them out, or the referees in particular bail them out. Really appreciated Mike Dean saying, "Oh, I may have been wrong. Pulling hair might actually be a penalty in violent conduct." You think? Paul, let's just quickly reference Crystal Palace. They win 3-1 over Villa today. They went down 1-0. Quick response. They look really good. I think of all the things I'm seeing right here, Fulham beating Brentford 3-2 and Palace beating Villa 3-1. Maybe we are quite good, and maybe Manchester United are quite bad. Those are my takeaways. Are you comfortable with those conclusions?
Yeah. No, we're definitely quite good. And yeah, the Spurs conversation, what we have in our bank is we should beat a lot of teams if we bring our stuff. Why wouldn't we? Like, we know how we're going to play. There's a lot of variation, a lot of variety. We got lots of good defenders. Assuming we add one more attacker, we've lots of good attackers. Like, I think we can garner a lot of points this year. And to your logic, that's what makes me feel better about Spurs. I just think we'll get more 3 points out of games than they will. They'll have some draws. Like, Wolves didn't score today, but Wolves should have scored today. Going 1 goal up would have changed that game dramatically. Now you got to get Kane and Son to get you 2 goals, not 1. And that's where today went. And that fighter jet is about 5 yards above the top of our place.
Nice.
USA. I'm full of patriotic fervor.
Fuck yeah. Come on.
We're coming for you. So, like, I like the matchup. I think we're going to bring it. I think we're going to have a really good run this year. And I have no idea what the original question was. But, yeah, USA.
Yeah. Hey, let's do something fun real quick. Jess, United's transfer strategy.
Yeah.
I think they are going to find a way to get Casemiro in at 60 million pounds and 400,000 a week. I'm surprised they didn't hold out for an older, more expensive player, but this was the oldest, most expensive player they could find, I guess. This is the thing. This is a 2 things can be true situation. Casemiro makes them better because currently they're using Fred and McTominay. But the point isn't just for United to go from being maybe 10th this season to maybe 6th this season. The goal for a club like Manchester United should be to win the league every season. Thankfully, that's not seemingly what they want to do, because even if Casemiro makes them better enough this season to be competent, to be a low-end Europa League team, next season, maybe he's starting to fade. Maybe they're still a low-end Europa League team, but they're not building anything that can be a platform, right? With their resources and their cachet, you would think that they could get a Tchouaméni type player like Real Madrid are going out and getting, but instead they're getting Real Madrid's cast-offs, overpriced, going to block paths for younger players. Like, long may it continue, I think, is where I'm at with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really surprising that this is what they've done, because they have panicked because their original plan did not work, and they kind of just started doing a scattergun. At one point they were going after Rabiot, they were going after Arnautovic, and now they seem to, have their eyes set on Casemiro. For Manchester United, like, they have to kind of be thinking like, okay, is this going to be Fernandinho or is this going to be Thiago? And Thiago, although he's in a better team, so it's not as bad, but at 30 or 29, for way less money, he went to Liverpool and really hasn't been able to stay fit. And it's kind of crumbled, since being in the Premier League. I think most Liverpool fans would say that's about true, even though he's a really, really good player and has won so much in his career. Then you look at Fernandinho. Manchester City bought him at 29, and he played all the way through to the point that he was like 25, 26, or 35, 36, or something like that. And he was just fine. And it just depends on how the player's body breaks down. But Manchester United also don't have the same foundation as those 2 teams. They need him to be good now. And
so that's the key. Can I just say one thing to your point about Thiago?
Yeah.
Liverpool added Thiago to a team that was a title winner, a Champions League winner level
100%.
team, right? They're trying to stay at the absolute top. They saw an affordable Thiago and said, we're getting an elite player to keep us at the top. who is a reasonable value. United are trying to get to
Yep.
a level where they can start to compete. They are buying an overpriced Casemiro before they're ready to compete. So I think they're not exactly apples to apples situations.
Oh yeah. It's definitely not apples to apples. I guess like my original point was kind of just more on like the age and seeing like could their body hold up to the standard of the Premier League. And then it's a matter of if you cannot get the most out of Casemiro in those first 2 seasons or so, you cannot move him on. You can't. Like you're stuck with him. And that's pretty much the situation that they've been in for about 10, 15 years. It's bring in the players without a plan, hope that they save you, but you don't have all the pieces together, which is something that a Liverpool or Man City can float if something doesn't go right. So Casemiro is just a typical Manchester United, signing. He's brilliant, but he also came for a payday, and that's just what it is, right?
Yep. I mean, I would say this too. And like you could say, well, but they're going for an Anthony who's young. And this is what I have to admit, right? This is where maybe I get stuck on valuations. 100 million for Anthony, based on everything I've read and seen and looked at, it doesn't make any sense. If they literally don't care about money at all, and there's no such thing as opportunity cost at United, because here, let me be clear about something. The only reason it matters what you spend is if it costs you somewhere else, right? So in other words, if Arsenal were to buy a midfielder right now for 80 million pounds, if it meant we couldn't get a forward, that's opportunity cost, right? But if Arsenal can buy a midfielder for 80 million pounds and a forward for 80 million pounds, then it doesn't matter if you overpaid. If United can buy Casemiro and buy Anthony, and it doesn't change any of their other plans, that's fine. But you look at what happened with Jadon Sancho. You look at what's going to happen with Anthony. They're going to spend these huge amounts on these players, and then those players become critical components of the team you're trying to build. And much like with Pepe didn't live up to what we needed him to be, and for a couple of seasons, that became a problem. Then we started trying to fix that problem. So how did we try to fix the problem of Pepe not being worth the 72 million? We signed Willian. And it took us a while to unravel that. And in a way, we got lucky because Martinelli and Smith Rowe and Saka, who we spent a combined basically nothing on, are all very good. That's not a plan. That's sort of good luck. Now, to be clear, we have a great plan and I like what we're doing. But I'm saying if we hadn't gotten lucky with some academy talent, we'd still be trying to figure out how to unwind the Oba, Laka, Willian, Pepe situation. And that's where United are getting ready to put themselves in now with Ronaldo and with Anthony at 100 million and Sancho at 90 million and Casemiro and Varane, right? And they just gave De Gea more money. They are a mess. Another interesting situation, though, Paul, is the Aubameyang to Chelsea rumor. I don't know how to feel about this one. I'd be perfectly happy he just doesn't come back to the Premier League. I have managed to retain a little bit of affection for Aubameyang because I liked him so much before we signed him, and I do think he did some good things for us, and he did win us an FA Cup. And I know the way he left was bad. Whatever side you fall on, who's bad, it was bad. It's not great. And if you don't like Oba, that's fine. I don't want him back in the league at one of my most hated clubs. And even if I think it's probably better for them to get Oba than some of the other players they might be able to get with their resources, and it's definitely overpaying for a player who we know is past his best, I'd personally be happy to not see him come back to the league. How about you?
I don't care about Aubameyang for some reason. Like, I don't mean that in a negative way. I like Oba. We decided to move him on. He moved on. Like, I don't think he's so good that he's going to change. He obviously Chelsea have a use for him, and he'll score some goals. He'll finish some goals, and they don't seem to have anybody who wants to put the ball in the net anymore these days over Chelsea. And I like that, but that's never going to last. They're going to get a striker for somewhere. So really my dilemma is, do I want it to be Aubameyang, or do I want to risk that Chelsea will go and spend money and get somebody even better, somebody even more complete, somebody who's 26, 27 coming through? Like, Alba's a reasonable option from my standpoint of view. We know what he is. He's nothing groundbreaking for them. He'll miss some. He'll score some. I like the guy. He was good with us and for us for a long time. We had good times. It's not one of those that, though, for whatever reason, is going to make me feel really emotional to see him wearing a Chelsea shirt or something like that, right? And like
the athletic greens, baby. Just so everybody's wondering.
It's
my athletic greens. It's why I'm looking so young and fresh and vital. Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
So like, it just doesn't move me either way. Good luck to him. Like there are worse players from our standpoint for Chelsea to go and buy. He's a bit of a finisher. Doesn't move me.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this, right? They get rid of Tammy. They get rid of Werner. Yeah. They look like they want to potentially get rid of Pulisic. They're shedding players that I think are usable and decent. They might lose Hudson-Odoi, right? I mean, if they're going to get rid of all that talent and bring in Oba, I still think the net of that is better for us. Let's shift back to Arsenal, given that this is the Arsenal Vision pre-match, post-match, live stream, podcast.com, hashtag AVP MP at Arsenal. Anyway, let's talk about Arsenal for a little bit. Let's talk keys to victory. And I mean, any worries on the Bournemouth side? Any vulnerabilities that we should specifically? Sorry, my 2-year-old is getting me. Worry about, Jess? Yeah.
Jess is doing a poll. Look.
I'm gonna make sure I say this. We have not had the low block test yet. We haven't had it yet, and I'm not quite
unlocking
sure what
a low block.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Crystal Palace did not sit in a low block against us. They tried to play us, and neither did Leicester. They were all over the place, and I think Arsenal would be really good with some space in behind. But if this is the first time that we're going to be at an away ground against a team that's going to, pack it in, and we're going to have to unpick the lock, we'll see actually how good we become, because that was an issue last season. I do think we kind of struggled in certain games to do that. Now, albeit like the best thing about this league is that most teams want to play expansive now, but there's still going to be teams at the bottom of the table that are going to say, you know what, the best possible thing to do is just maybe to sit deep. And then it's going to be a matter of whether or not our players have enough composure to not panic if we don't score right away. Because we're going to try to score in those we try to score the entire game, but you know how we do. First 15 minutes, we really go at it. You don't score after that. Maybe a whole half goes. What do you do from there? And then what does Arteta do from a substitution standpoint, maybe to give us a little bit more to unlock them? So that's my only thing is if Bournemouth sit in a block, this is another challenge. We passed the Crystal Palace challenge. Now we have to see if we can pass this one, because it's going to be another very loud away ground, and they haven't lost at their home ground for like 11 games. So they're going to be up for it.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on. And like, look, Paul, it's interesting, right? Because I think this is where the press is going to be a big difference maker. It's very hard to break down a low block, but if you're able to catch them trying to get out from their low block and create little transition opportunities, that's where I think you can really hurt them. I think the key, and this is going to sound so dumb, like it's all about the first goal, because the minute Bournemouth have to come out and start to try to play, and at home, I think it's almost an advantage to play them away in a sense that, like, I don't know how much they can just bunker in at home. They may feel a little bit motivated to come out, but if we get a goal and they have to try to play to try to get back into the game, then I think it sets up really nicely for us. But do you think that the addition of our press and the improvement of our press really comes to show up in a game like this, where you've got a low block team and you can maybe try to create those easier transition chances?
Yeah, that's a really good aspect of it. I think the big thing that's different for us compared to last season is just the fact that Jesus can create situations for himself and Martinelli at the same time. They can run at the box. They can combine. Jesus is an actual aerial threat at 5'9". He rises high. He hangs high for a while, and his movement will get him into space. I just think we've way more ways to get at a low block than we did 12 months ago. Movement, dribbling. We're quite a dribbly team now. Zinchenko, that variety there. So, I think Jess makes a great point here, but I'm excited to see how we take on a low block. If you're defending Saka on one side, Martinelli on the other, and Gabriel Jesus through the middle, with Zinchenko and Odegaard putting in clever balls, that should hopefully feel like you're on the rack there. So I'm up for a little torture of Bournemouth. I don't know what Arteta will have done, laying out candles around the pitch and playing the Bournemouth anthem, if they ever worked out what that was, to create the mood for this game, to get the guys up for it. But I think we'll be ready for this, and we'll know what we're facing.
Yeah, I mean, Jess, like they beat a very, very bad Villa side in their opening match. I think that Villa team is just, I don't know if it's a very bad team. I think it's a very poorly coached team. We'll see. But like they had 34% possession in that game and 33% against Manchester City. They don't want the ball. They won't have the ball. I think this is where I got to agree though. The Gabriel Jesus factor is so important, because center back, with all the love in the world to Lacazette or not, like central defenders who were going up against Lacazette knew they could push up that little bit higher, move the line up a little bit, not worry about him getting in behind. Maybe they could cheat off to the wide forwards a little bit. I think Jesus's little runs. I mean, the thing that blew me away in the Leicester game is not the runs he makes when we're transitioning, the runs he makes when we have the ball deep, and the positions he takes up in the channels to get the ball. Like that just pulls central defenders all over the place. So I'm kind of hoping to see a bigger game out of Odegaard today, because we're going to have the ball more deep, and he's sort of the lock picker. So I'm hoping that we'll see a little more from Odegaard. But do you think just the presence of Jesus and those little runs he makes really is the big difference when we face a low block team like this today?
Yeah, it's going to be the movement and what we do in small spaces. And so Jesus does a good job in both categories, good runs off the ball. And it's different to like Aubameyang, because he was really good at making runs as well, but he wasn't necessarily very good in small spaces where Jesus is. And so I think like Martinelli, he's gotten so much better with his touch and his small space play. You have Zinchenko, who's like a wizard on the ball. Odegaard, he's good at being, keeping the ball close to him. And it's just going to be a matter of us being patient. I think that's mostly what it is, and just finding the right passes. But even though, I do think that there might be a little bit of a test here, this game might be a little bit more difficult than some people think. I still imagine that we will pass this. Like, I think we're beyond, not being able to unpick a lock. I just want to see it with my own two eyes. I have this feeling that we're going to look really, really good today, but it'll be a different test today than we've seen so far.
Yeah, well, let's start to wrap things up a little bit as we're getting closer to kickoff, and just look at a few final predictions, keys to the game, things like that. So, Paul, before we go predictions on score, do you have a prediction on who might show up in this game as a big factor? I am leaning towards Odegaard having his first real breakout game of the season. What do you think?
I'm going to go with us still worrying if Odegaard's a little quiet for no good reason at the end of this game. I think it'll be the Zinchenko show again. I think Zinchenko, it's going to be interesting because it won't really suit Xhaka in a packed box. Like, it's one thing him getting in the box with a little bit of space around him, but the tight spaces in and around the edge of the box, I wonder if we might swap those two around a little bit more than we have. But I think Zinchenko, he was 51 touches by halftime against Leicester, which is amazing. I think he'll be one of the keys to this match and a very dominant factor. And there'll be a lot of left-sided stuff. And I predict it'll all work out fine.
Yeah. Do you think we might see anything like different in the way we approach the game that from what we've seen the first couple of games, or just more of the same?
I think it'll be the same approach. It'll feel different for the reasons Jess outlined. It's another team that's going to play three at the back. Most probably. Probably feel more like a five, sitting deep, waiting to hit us on the counter. It'll be the most that kind of game we've played so far this season. Could be a little frustrating, and we'll need to be patient. I mean, the scary thing about Bournemouth is I don't know who any of their players are. Like, they might be great. Never heard of them.
They're the same guys from the year, like, when they were here. Like, it's basically the same team, plus I think the striker from Wales. I don't know. I don't remember his name, but he is a big guy, like somebody said.
As long as it's not Gareth Bale, I think we're okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not.
Pretty much the same team, which is strange. You'd think, like, the way Fulham and Nottingham Forest are doing business, like, you'd think Bournemouth would do more, but I don't know.
Yeah. I gotta say, like, I think this is also where Gabriel Jesus just makes a big difference. As you saw last week, we were starting to dominate Leicester, but there were some hairy moments at the back too, the Fofana chance and stuff. And then from a not too dangerous move, he pulls out an incredible piece of skill that gets us the 1-0 lead. And from there, I think it wasn't just dominance in possession. It was dominance on the scoreline. It was dominance in chance creation. And so having that player who will say, look, I'm going to take responsibility for opening this up, for finding a little piece of brilliance when we're maybe not finding that most dangerous chance. I feel like for the last few seasons, to score a goal, so often we had to do something so perfect collectively. And I think we have players now, as we saw with Martinelli last game, as we saw with Jesus last game, who can do something brilliant without it having to be fully unlocking the defense on 20 passes and sliding it in to an empty net. So, Jess, do you think like that's it? Get the first goal and the rest will just happen naturally from there?
Yeah, I think so. Get the first goal, don't let them grow into confidence as the game goes on. Get that early goal, really put them back on their heels, and just dominate possession. I hate to use the same oh, Man City, but yeah, you got to Man City them a little bit. They're not going to want the ball, and if you can suffocate them with possession and control the game, we will come out in a good space. I just don't want to see us doing that thing where you can just tell they start to panic and kick the ball out for no reason and rush passes. They need to be patient and then take their chances when they get them. But with Gabriel Jesus, he should be the difference between this looking like because it wouldn't really be close, but being a type of game where maybe it's 1-0 to being 2-3-0. Like I think that's going to be the difference, is putting those goals up there.
I've got a last critical question, and I want everybody in the chat involved. This is a group participation exercise. What is the topic of Arteta's pre-match motivational speech today? Are we getting whiteboard drawings of a brain and a heart holding hands? Are we getting a light bulb and a history lesson about Edison? Is he going to pull out something about toothpaste or syrup? Paul, where are we going with this? What is he going to go back to? An experience a negative experience from the past, a positive experience? What's Arteta's pre-match move today? The All or Nothing show has fascinated me with his creativity, and sometimes hits and sometimes misses. What's he going with today?
To answer it jokingly, he's going to sing them the Bournemouth anthem. More seriously, this is one of those games where he knows he's got 50 games in a season. He's going to keep the message simple. Keep doing what we're doing. He doesn't want to use up all his good stories, his good sketches. Those are for when he needs the team to wake up, respond, come back. So this will be very, very simple. Establish the basics. Go do it, guys. The other thing he's got going for him is competition off the bench, competition in training. So these guys are all going to be pumped. This is one of those where you get out of the way of your team and let them go play. You might need to say something at halftime, but to begin with, don't say too much or they stop listening. I do think from the training videos, one of the moves he may be emphasizing is Zinchenko picking up the ball in the left-hand area of the pitch and keepy-upping it all the way into the penalty area as the opposition's jaws drop.
Do you think it could be more of a, guys, due to global warming, this town may eventually be underwater? This may be your last chance to play them before it's an amphibious location. And so I don't know. Maybe that may be too dark. Yeah, Jess, is that not where you're going?
No, I think he's probably given them maybe like a handful of cherries and just told them to just smash them right in your hand and just watch.
Oh, I love it. So he says, here's the thing. A cherry may look easy to crush on the outside, but there's a nut, a seed in the middle. It's actually quite hard to break into. And if you fall, pit, that's it. Thank you. You know what? I don't talk for a living.
And earlier, what was that fancy pronunciation of cachet? It's pronounced cash. Moolah. No. Money.
Cachet. No, C-A-C-H-E-T. Cachet.
Okay.
Like cachet meaning to like a reputation, not cash as in a storage of something. Cachet is kind of like is your reputation, having like anyway. So we could say like the fruit on the outside may look easy to squish and bite into. We just tear it apart. But if you take it lightly, you will find that pit in the middle. and you might crack your tooth. So take it seriously, be aware that there's that pit in the middle, and bring real seriousness and concentration to the way you tear the cherry apart. Jess wins. She nailed it. I do like the idea of cherries with shells.
How did I lose? What did I lose?
I'm going to tell you what you lost.
I think
after,
mine was like
you lost everything.
comprehensively better.
You
We know
lost everything.
this.
We can end by saying, come on, Arsenal. We do love you. It's hopefully going to be another beautiful day of football. We always say we love you at the end of these things because we do love you. As a quick reminder, if you want to just copy this text and tweet it, it would be hugely appreciated. Also, go to the FCA website and vote for Jess because she's up for an award as well, and well deserved. Jess is on Twitter at Jessinho Tweets. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
Paul, I will talk to you soon and too often. So I will bid you an adieu for now. You are a man of great cachet. Paul is on Twitter at Pause My Pants. Thanks, Pause.
Woohoo!
My name is, of course, Elliot Smith, and you must, could, can, should block me on Twitter at Yankee Gunner. Love you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day watching the Arsenal today. We'll be back with an instant reaction pod at full time for patrons, and then the full match pod will be out on Monday as always. Love you. Come on, Arsenal. And we'll talk to you after Arsenal 10, Bournemouth. No.